All right, hi everybody. Welcome to our presentation. Welcome. We chose to do for our group presentation LGBTQ plus in the workplace. In my group, I had Emily Lambert, me, Briana Marshall, and then Emily Pepper. So let's get started. So first, I thought we would introduce the LGBTQ plus identities. So we have lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, ally, asexual, and pansexual. I think it's important that we identify this community and all the different identities that make up of it. And this graphic is really neat because you can read the definition underneath as well. So first we wanted to touch on LGBT in the workplace and the demographics and statistics of it. It's important to note that in 28 states, it was previously illegal to fire a worker for identifying as LGBTQ+. This was recently overturned by the June 15th Supreme Court decision, stating that it's now illegal to fire people based on their sex and gender identity. Underneath are some statistics as well. So 16% of LGB and 16% of transgender workers have been fired due to their sexuality and gender. 18% of LGB and 30% of trans workers have been denied promotions. 35% of LGB and 15% of trans workers have experienced verbal, physical, and sexual harassment. 59% of trans workers avoided using public restrooms because it was either unsafe or inaccessible. 53% of LGB workers felt the need to hide their identity due to fear of discrimination. Here are some other statistics and demographics. These were found from the Human Rights Campaign Foundation back in 2018. I really thought these were interesting because it makes it more personalized. So first we have 25% of LGBTQ workers feeling distracted while they're at work, so they can't even focus on work while they're at work. We also have 28% of them that said they were lying about their personal life. 17% felt exhausted from spending time and energy hiding their sexual orientation, and then 13% from gender identity. 20% of LGBTQ workers avoided a special event, such as a work lunch, a happy hour, or a holiday party. 25% of LGBTQ workers avoided certain people at work, so people that they thought wouldn't be accepting or has outwardly spoken about how they feel about the LGBTQ positive community. 31% said they felt unhappy or depressed at work. 20% have stayed home from work because the workplace wasn't always accepting of LGBTQ people. I thought that was very interesting. And then 20% of people searched for a different job, which I thought was very interesting as well. There's some information here regarding discrimination and prejudice. I thought it was really interesting to learn about the LGBTQ workers and how they lack the faith in the accountability systems at work. This mainly focused on management and how LGBTQ workers don't tell a supervisor or human resources about negative comments. This really was appalling to me that they couldn't even, tell people how they're feeling. They would think nothing would be done about it. They don't want to hurt relationships with their coworkers. In a study from the Human Rights Campaign Foundation, they found 1 in 10 employees have heard their own supervisor make negative comments about LGBTQ positive people. And 45% of LGBTQ workers agree with the statement that enforcers of non-discrimination policy is dependent on their supervisor's own feelings towards LGBTQ people.
LGBT workplace discrimination experiences. LGBT community members rank workplace protections above marriage rights. However, according to Reinhardt in his 2020 article, LGBT Workplace Issues, it is also the subtle social dynamics within workplaces that can wreak havoc on their security and sense of belonging. Workplace discrimination experiences can come in the form of microaggressions. There are 3 forms of microaggressions, one of which is microassaults. Microassaults are blatant forms of verbal and nonverbal attacks, such as calling someone a fag or a tranny. Micro-insults, on the other hand, are more discreet but rude and insensitive communications, such as the supervisor ignoring the contributions of LGBT workers. In addition, there are micro-invalidations, communications that negate the thoughts and feelings of the individual, such as, "you don't look gay," or "you don't sound gay." In addition, LGBT community members are subjected to a double standard. Coworkers tend to view LGBT stories and relationships as both inappropriate and oversharing compared to their own. Mental health repercussions. Anti-LGBT discrimination increases the risk of poor mental and physical health. According to the Cornell Chronicle, out of 300 peer-reviewed studies, 286 studies affirm this link. Anti-LGBT discrimination is associated with depression, anxiety, suicidality, PTSD, substance use, and cardiovascular disease. In addition, discrimination can cause indirect health harms due to pressure to conform and presence of discrimination. This adds to poor coping skills, such as suicide attempts, substance abuse, and risky sexual behaviors. Mental health repercussions in turn make it harder to be open about one's sexuality, which can further lead to poor mental health, increased stress, and limited social support. LGBT repercussions for minorities. Discrimination based on intersecting identities exacerbates harm, such as the interplay between race, social economic status, and gender and sexual identities. The minority stress model shows that stigma, prejudice, and discrimination can create a hostile social environment that can cause poor mental health. Minority stress for individuals of color and of LGBTQ identities includes internalized stigma, low self-esteem, and expectations of rejection and fear of discrimination. In addition, an article by Stutter and Pern in 2016 on discrimination, mental health, and suicidal ideation among LGBTQ people of color shows that anti-LGBTQ discriminations have an indirect effect on mental health and suicidal ideation, while racism has a direct effect on mental health but is not associated with suicidal ideation. This article shows the effects discrimination based on multiple identities can cause.
I'm going to be discussing counseling and how it relates to LGBT plus clients in the workplace. So counselors can help clients decide whether to disclose their sexual identity at work. Counselors can help clients reflect on their sexual identity development, as well as the level of support, resources, and risks in disclosing their sexual identity if they choose to do so. Counselors can help clients determine coping strategies, as well as a list of pros and cons for using each. Counselors can also provide a safe space for clients to practice using these coping strategies during sessions. Counselors can also help clients identify positive social support, especially in the workplace, as this can promote an increase in self-esteem, positive group identity, and positive mental health. And counselors can use affirmative CBT. Components of this include establishing that support system, as well as acknowledging other factors such as discrimination that may be influencing a client's life. Research is needed in this area. This is a list of competencies that different task forces have suggested. So for ALGBTIC clients, counselors can empower clients to advocate on their own, provide resources of safe workplaces, and for allies, counselors can recognize the costs of those who support and advocate for and with LGBT plus colleagues, such as tension and harassment. The next set of competencies are for counseling transgender clients. So counselors should have knowledge on the interplay of discrimination and oppression, the history of discrimination in the workplace and how it affects other areas of a client's life. And counselors should have skills in addressing issues and challenges in employment due to transitioning if the client chooses to do so. And these are more suggestions. These refer professional counselors to help transgender clients who face workplace aggression. I think these can be applied to the whole community. Specifically, counselors should have the knowledge on oppression and discrimination as mentioned earlier, and they can use that to educate the larger community as well as employers and institutions. And this can lead to advocacy at the micro and macro levels. And counselors should have continuous education on LGBT plus issues in the workplace, especially by identifying their limitations and incompetencies. And this can include continued supervision and consultation with those who have more experience in this area. So to conclude, what can you do? And that's to be an ally. So workplace discrimination for this community runs rampant in our society, although progress is being made. So to help combat anti-LGBT discrimination and prejudice and to help clients, we can be allies, if not a conspirator for them, as well as to educate ourselves on this topic. So to learn more about how you can help and to provide some more educational resources, as well as to provide some sources to improve your own well-being as maybe a member of this community, we have some videos on discrimination. We have specific hotlines if you need them, and then more resources on work environments and employee resources for the LGBT plus community. And then finally, a preview of our activity. You'll need 4 paper stars in red, blue, orange, and purple, or you can just have images of these stars in those same colors on your computer. I mean, either way is fine. So some of the goals are to foster a deeper understanding of what LGBT plus individuals may face in the workplace, as well as to improve critical thinking skills when working with LGBT plus clients. So the activity will involve breakout rooms, and everyone will be assigned a star color. Then scenarios will be read by the group leader, and the color of the star will determine how the scenario is played out for you. And then we'll also provide a list of questions to facilitate discussion. These are our references. And that's the end of our presentation. So thank you for listening and following along.